I always thought my life was a well-engineered system. Robert, 35, software engineer, Seattle. The kind of man who found comfort in algorithms, in the predictable logic of cause and effect. My home, nestled in the green hills overlooking Lake Union, was meticulously organized, every book alphabetized, every piece of tech integrated. And my marriage to Laura, well, I believed it was the most finely tuned system of all. We'd met at a tech conference, both of us drawn to the elegant simplicity of a well-coded solution. She was a product manager, bright and effervescent, a splash of vibrant color against my more muted, methodical world. She made me laugh, made me look up from my screen, made me believe in a different kind of logic, the logic of human connection. For 8 years, our life together felt stable, like a perfectly running program. No bugs, no unexpected errors. Or so I thought. The first few years were blissful. Laura had this infectious energy, a way of making even mundane tasks feel like an adventure. We'd spend weekends exploring the PNW, hiking trails that led to breathtaking vistas, and every evening, she'd bring a spark of warmth to our quiet home. She'd curate playlists for our dinner parties, for our road trips, for our lazy Sunday mornings. Music was always a big part of our connection, a shared language that transcended my often stoic demeanor. Our early playlist, our beginning, was filled with indie folk and classic rock that reminded us of shared memories, whispered jokes, and the heady rush of new love. It was a testament to our journey, a soundtrack to our unfolding story. Then Kyle came into the picture. He was my best friend from college, a brilliant but slightly chaotic graphic designer who'd moved back to Seattle a few years ago. Laura took to him immediately. They shared a quick wit, a love for obscure films, and an easy banter that often left me feeling a step behind, struggling to catch up to their rapid-fire exchanges. I remember brushing it off. Kyle was family, practically a brother. His presence made our dinners livelier, our weekend gatherings more dynamic. He'd often stay late, nursing a final beer, talking with Laura about something or another while I'd already retreated to my study to work on a pet project or just decompress. I saw no malice in it, only friendship. That was my first mistake, my logical mind assuming everyone operated on the same clear code. The subtle shifts started small, almost imperceptibly at first. Little changes in routine, in the way Laura looked at me, in the texture of our silence. Our shared playlists, once a joint endeavor, became less collaborative. More and more, I'd walk into the living room or the kitchen to find Laura and Kyle sharing headphones, lost in a world of their own, a quiet murmur of conversation punctuated by soft laughter. They'd pull apart quickly when they saw me, a fleeting awkwardness that I rationalized as them being surprised by my presence. They had private jokes, references to songs I hadn't heard, conversations that felt like they had started long before I arrived and would continue long after I left. I tried to join in, of course. I'd ask, "What are you guys listening to?" Laura would offer a vague answer. "Oh, just some new indie stuff Kyle found." Or Kyle would mumble something about a niche band. They'd never quite offer me the headphones, never quite invite me into their bubble. A peculiar feeling began to settle in my chest, a cold knot of exclusion. It wasn't jealousy, not exactly. More like a system error, an anomaly in my perfectly ordered world. I began to feel like a guest in my own home, an observer to a play I didn't quite understand. My sleep became fractured. I'd lie awake, the hum of the city outside our window, my mind replaying snippets of their laughter, the way their eyes would meet over my head. I started to notice Laura's phone more. It was always with her, often face down, a subtle barrier. She'd become guarded, her answers clipped when I asked about her day, her enthusiasm reserved for conversations with Kyle. The intimacy between us, once a warm, comforting blanket, now felt thin and threadbare. Our arguments became more frequent, always about trivial things, but each one felt like a small tear in the fabric of our life. I remember one evening, the damp Seattle air clinging to the windows, a feeling of deep unease gnawing at me. I finally tried to voice my growing fears to Laura. We were in the kitchen, the soft glow of the under-cabinet lighting casting long shadows. I said, "Laura, I feel like you and Kyle have this whole other world. I feel left out." She stopped chopping vegetables, her knife poised. She turned to me, her eyes wide, a familiar defensiveness in her posture. She said, "Robert, That's ridiculous. We're just friends. You're overthinking again. It's just how we are, you know? You're so serious sometimes. She made me feel small, neurotic, as if my very reasonable concern was a symptom of some flaw within me. I hated that feeling. I retreated, my logical mind wrestling with my gut, telling myself I was being paranoid, insecure. She had always been able to explain away my worries, to soothe them with a practiced hand. But this time, the bomb didn't work. The unease persisted, a low, constant thrum beneath the surface of my consciousness. It was the sound of a system failing, and I was too blind, too trusting, to see the crash coming. The playlist. It became an obsession. I would catch glimpses of their phones, the familiar interface of our streaming service, and often, it was the same album art, the same track titles. It wasn't one of our playlists, not the ones we'd built together, not the Our Beginning, or the Rainy Day Vibes, or the Road Trip anthems. This one was different. It was their secret language, a melody I couldn't decipher, a code I couldn't break. The dread became a constant companion, a cold, heavy stone in my stomach. It tainted my coffee in the mornings, blurred my lines of code at work, and whispered doubts into the quiet of our bedroom at night. I found myself watching them, dissecting their interactions, their glances, their smiles. Was that a little too long? Was that laugh a little too intimate? Each observation fueled the fire of my suspicion, a roaring inferno against the cool logic I had always prided myself on. But still, I had no proof, no hard data, nothing to confirm the catastrophic bug I felt in my system. Just a feeling, a raw, primal intuition that fought against every rational fiber of my being. Then came the evening that broke my world into shards. It was a Tuesday, I think. Rain lashed against the windows, a typical Seattle downpour. Laura was in the shower, the sound of the spray a dull roar from the bathroom. Kyle had left just an hour earlier, after another one of their impromptu listening sessions in the living room. They'd been particularly animated, their voices low and conspiratorial, a soft melody floating from their shared headphones. I had been in my study, ostensibly working, but my mind was elsewhere, circling, always circling back to them. A sudden, overwhelming urge seized me. A need to know, to confirm, to either prove my paranoia or to silence the screams of my gut once and for all. My hands trembled as I walked to the living room. Laura's phone was on the coffee table, face up, a rarity. Her streaming service app was open. The current song was playing through the phone's speakers, barely audible, a soft, melancholic piano melody. It was a song I'd never heard, yet it felt strangely familiar, as if it had been playing in the background of my subconscious for weeks. I picked up the phone, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. My fingers, surprisingly steady, navigated to her playlists. There it was. Not hidden, not password protected, just there. A playlist. Titled, simply, Our Future. The words hit me like a physical blow, a sudden, sharp intake of breath that burned my lungs. Our future. Not my future. Not Laura's future. Our future. A collaborative playlist. The little icon showing both Laura's profile picture and Kyle's. My vision blurred. I scrolled through the song titles, each one a fresh cut. Asterisk unwritten chapter, asterisk secret symphony, asterisk beyond the horizon, asterisk where we belong, asterisk whispers in the dark, and then the descriptions. Each song had a short message, not from the artist, but from them. Little notes, exchanged in plain sight. My blood ran cold as I read. Asterisk, remember that night, K? Under the stars, everything changed. From Laura, asterisk, every note, every beat, it all points to UL. My heart knows the way. From Kyle, asterisk, this is our song, the one we dreamt of. From Laura, asterisk, soon, my love. Soon, we'll be free. From Kyle, my stomach lurched. A wave of nausea washed over me, so potent I thought I might vomit. The world around me spun, the meticulously organized room dissolving into a blurry mess. The sound of the shower, once a comfort, now felt like a mocking roar. My hands shook violently, the phone nearly slipping from my grasp. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't an error in my perception. This was cold, hard data. Proof. A betrayal so blatant, so casual, it felt like a punch to the gut. 8 years. Our life. Our future. All a lie, meticulously curated into a playlist I was never meant to hear. Our future they were building was one that explicitly, cruelly, excluded me. The betrayal wasn't just in the act, but in the brazen audacity of its digital manifestation, mocking me with its open secret. The phone felt heavy, burning in my hand. I felt a strange detachment, as if I was watching myself from above, a character in a movie playing out a tragic scene. The raw, visceral pain was there, a sharp ache deep in my chest, but it was overlaid with a chilling calm, a clarity that sliced through the confusion. I knew what I had to do. I waited. The shower stopped. Laura emerged, wrapped in a towel, her hair damp. She smiled at me, a soft, tired smile that suddenly felt like a mask. I didn't smile back. I just looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw a stranger. Later that evening, after dinner, Laura suggested we watch a movie. Kyle was on his way over, as he often was on Tuesday nights for their movie club. I agreed, a strange, hollow feeling settling in my bones. I felt like a ghost, moving through my own life, invisible. The truth, heavy and metallic, sat in my throat. Kyle arrived, his usual easy smile and a six-pack of craft beer in hand. He exchanged a quick, knowing glance with Laura, a micro-expression that I would have missed a week ago, but now shone like a neon sign. They settled onto the sofa, a little too close, a little too comfortable. I remained standing, a subtle barrier between them and the TV. You know, I said, my voice eerily calm, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. I was thinking about music today. All those playlists we used to make, Laura. Our beginning, rainy day vibes. I trailed off, watching their faces. Laura's smile faltered, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. Kyle, oblivious, just nodded, took a sip of his beer. Yeah, well, Laura said, trying to sound casual. People change, tastes evolve, right? Right. I replied, my gaze fixed on her. And sometimes, new playlists emerge. New futures are planned. I walked over to the sound system, my fingers surprisingly steady. My gaze swept over them, seeing the quick, darting looks they exchanged, the sudden tension in their bodies. I connected my phone to the speakers, then slowly, deliberately, navigated to the streaming service app. I scrolled down, past all our shared history, past the carefully curated soundtracks of our life. And then I selected it. Our future. The first notes of unwritten chapter filled the living room, a soft, hopeful melody that now felt utterly grotesque. The air crackled with tension. Laura's eyes widened, her face paling. Kyle froze, his beer bottle halfway to his lips. The music played on, each note a nail in the coffin of my marriage, of my friendship. I watched them, truly watched them, as the lyrics began, talking of new starts, of hidden desires, of destinies intertwined. Laura's breath hitched. Kyle's jaw tightened, his gaze fixed on the floor, avoiding mine. The song swelled, a powerful, emotional crescendo. I let it play for a full minute, the silence between us deafening beneath the music. Then I spoke. My voice was low, devoid of emotion, a flat line in the chaotic symphony. So, I said, my eyes never leaving Laura's face. Which song describes the part where I disappear? The question hung in the air, a devastating chord. Laura gasped, a strangled sound, and then her face crumpled. Tears welled in her eyes, silent at first, then flowing freely, tracing paths down her cheeks. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Kyle, finally looking up, his face a mask of shock and accusation, stammered. Robert, what are you talking about? This is crazy. It's just a playlist. We were just friends. I finished for him, my voice still unervingly calm. Just building our future together? Soon, my love. Soon, we'll be free. Is that what this is, Kyle? Freedom? He tried to deny it again, his words a desperate, weak attempt to construct a new reality. But the overwhelming evidence in the lyrics, the song descriptions, the collaborative nature of it all, spoke for itself. He was caught. There was no escaping the algorithm of their betrayal. Laura's sobs grew louder, a raw, animalistic sound. Kyle, seeing her tears, seeing the undeniable truth in my eyes, finally fell silent, his face a grim tableau of guilt and shame. The music continued to play, a cruel soundtrack to the implosion of my life. I didn't need their confession. The playlist was their confession. And in that moment, seeing their crumbled faces, their pathetic attempts at denial, a strange sense of clarity washed over me. The system had failed, yes, but the error wasn't mine. The next few days were a blur of raw emotion. The initial shock gave way to a wave of profound grief, a deep, aching sorrow that felt physical, like a gaping wound in my chest. I cried until my eyes were swollen and gritty, until my throat was raw. I screamed into pillows, the anger a burning inferno, scorching everything in its path. How could they? How could she? The woman I had loved, the friend I had trusted, both of them meticulously constructing a world that excluded me, all while I sat blissfully unaware, trying to solve problems that weren't even the real ones. I felt like an idiot, a naive fool whose logical mind had failed to account for the irrational complexities of human deceit. My well-engineered life had been torn down, brick by brick, by the very people I trusted most. There were moments of complete emotional collapse, where I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, just lay in a fetal position on the cold tile floor of our kitchen, the familiar scent of Laura's cooking spices now a bitter memory. My body ached, a deep fatigue settling into my bones, as if every cell in me was mourning the loss. But then, slowly, something shifted. In the wreckage of my shattered world, a tiny spark ignited. It wasn't hope, not yet. It was anger, a fierce, protective anger for myself. A realization that I deserved better than this. This wasn't just a system error. It was a deliberate act of sabotage. And I, Robert, the man of logic, would not stand for it. The awakening came with a fierce clarity. I started to see Laura not as the woman I loved, but as a manipulator, a betrayer. Her tears on that night, I now saw them not as genuine remorse for me, but as shame for being caught, for her carefully constructed lie collapsing. Kyle, my best friend, was reduced to a caricature of disloyalty. The raw pain began to crystallize into resolve. The first step was the hardest, but also the most liberating. I told Laura I was leaving. There were more tears, more apologies, more pleas for understanding, for a second chance. But her words, once so potent, now held no power over me. They were just data, a corrupted stream I had no intention of processing. I packed a single duffel bag, leaving behind years of shared memories, of carefully chosen furniture, of a life that was no longer mine. I deleted her from my phone, from all our shared streaming accounts, from my social media, severing every digital cord that bound us. It was a symbolic act, a reclaiming of my digital space, my identity. I found a minimalist apartment downtown, a stark contrast to our carefully curated home. It was small, efficient, with bare walls and an almost monastic quiet. It felt like a blank slate, a new operating system ready for a fresh install. The silence, initially unnerving, soon became a comfort, a balm to my frayed nerves. There were no shared headphones, no private jokes, no music playing that wasn't chosen solely by me. I threw myself into my work, into the predictable, clean logic of code. I spent hours building things from scratch, line by line, algorithm by algorithm. It was satisfying, tangible. The control I lacked in my personal life, I found in the elegant precision of software development. There, inputs led to predictable outputs. There, a bug could be identified, isolated, and fixed. Human hearts, I realized, were far more complex, their algorithms far more elusive. The healing was not linear, nor was it swift. There were days, weeks even, where the ghost of our future would haunt me, the melody of betrayal replaying in my mind. But I didn't dwell. I learned to acknowledge the pain, to sit with it, and then to let it pass. I started attending a support group for people who had experienced betrayal. It was hard at first, sharing my story, exposing my vulnerability to strangers. But in their shared experiences, I found a strange camaraderie, a validation that I wasn't alone, that my pain was real and understandable. They helped me slowly, painstakingly, learn to trust my intuition again, that quiet, insistent voice I had so foolishly silenced for so long. I learned to distinguish between true connection and manipulative charm. I learned that not every algorithm could predict human betrayal, no matter how much I wished it could. Sometimes, the most beautiful systems could be corrupted by a single, insidious bug. Today, months later, I'm still rebuilding. The minimalist apartment is starting to feel like home, filled not with shared memories, but with the quiet satisfaction of solitary creation. I still listen to music, but now it's my music, chosen for me, by me. Sometimes, a melody will trigger a memory, a pang of the old hurt. But it's fleeting now, a shadow rather than a suffocating darkness. I'm no longer the well-engineered man who believed in perfect systems. I'm a man who understands that life is messy, complicated, and full of unexpected variables. There's a bittersweet wisdom in that understanding. The hope I once had for a meticulously planned future with Laura is gone, replaced by a different kind of hope, the quiet, resilient hope of a man rebuilding, a man learning to trust his own compass, learning to code his own path forward. The music of my life now plays a new, stronger, more authentic melody. It's a solo act, for now, but it's mine. And it's real.